The darkest TV show ever made, Nick Crowley. Okay. You read the list of like warning and you're
It's
like,
the
oh,
winter
okay.
of 1985.
Maybe I should click
a
off.
family living in a remote region of the Philippines receives a package at their door, which contained a single VHS tape and a note stating that the contents were for the children of the house. And so the kids were gathered up one by one and sat in front of the television where the tape began to play.
So what you shared?
Them.
Too long though, too long. I'm doing a short stream today, so yeah. 3-parter like that is too long.
To a brand new show called
Life with Grandpa.
Life with Grandpa.
This was the experience for hundreds of kids across the world, made to watch a seemingly harmless puppet show about a grandpa and his family, with most of the young viewers loving it, gladly watching this episode and the many others that would be sent later on, over and over again, blissfully unaware that what they were being shown would someday come to be known as one of the most disturbing rabbit holes in the history of children's media. This is the story of Life with Grandpa,
but even one
the
video is pretty long.
Ever made.
We'll see. We'll see. Maybe I'll watch one.
When Jesus is near.
Dad, I don't want you to leave.
Can I persuade you to subscribe?
Before we dive any further down this rabbit hole, I want to first thank today's video sponsor, Saley. Throughout my life, I've taken countless trips to Canada as I live right by the border, and I'm so used to going there that at this point it doesn't even feel like I'm traveling to another country until I see the roaming charges on my phone bill. This has literally cost me hundreds of dollars over the years, but luckily I don't have to waste another cent thanks to Saley. Saley is a new eSIM service app created by Nord Security, and it's incredibly easy to use. First, download the Saley app, then pick a plan that works for you, which you can use code Crowley to get 15% off at checkout, and then simply follow the instructions in the app to install the eSIM. This is way more convenient than having to get a new physical SIM card whenever you go to another country. And best of all, it instantly activates as soon as you arrive at your destination, so you don't have to waste a second of your trip. This is also way safer than having to use public Wi-Fi, which is a hassle to track down anyway. Saley is also extremely accessible, with it being available on both iOS and Android, with plans available in over 160 countries in 8 different regions. So if this sounds like something you guys might be interested in, you can get an exclusive 15% off discount on your Saley eSIM data plan. All you have to do is download the app and use code Crowley at checkout, or you can also scan the code on screen right now and get started today.
Okay.
Fellowship
dedicated
to sharing.
Thank you.
She loved to play on the steep hillside.
Prefer to read it instead of watching it. Fair enough.
This is Life with Grandpa, a straight-to-VHS show made for children created sometime in the mid-80s. The program followed a family of humanoid puppets on their journey to teach the audience
I was trying to find the word puppets. That's what it is. Puppets.
Lessons loosely based on Christianity through the use of stories, skits, and songs. Acting.
I know in idea like it's cool controlling puppets like that, but they just look creepy. I don't know. Like some puppets can look fine, but a lot of puppets, they have like such a dead face, you know? Bill Cosby show. I mean, I never watched it, but we'll see. I know about the guy, so I can imagine in retrospect, yeah, it's probably hardcore to watch, yeah.
As a guide for children to live their best possible lives for Jesus.
We're continuing with some more lessons about prayer. Are you all ready?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you,
Yes,
Lord.
sir.
Such sweethearts.
The show was set up in an episodic fashion, never following any main overarching storyline, and instead, each installment would be composed of a series of shorter segments, recounting past experiences from this family, with an occasional musical number thrown in here and there.
The faces are just... this is some shit.
Unsurprisingly, the main character of the crew was Grandpa, who acted as the show's host, often being the one to teach the episode's central messages not only to his on-screen family, but to
in another video from Nick Crowley, like another show like that was basically what it was, yeah. The puppet guy was actually the bad guy, you know, like trying to teach lesson while being, you know, fucked up himself.
The kids watching at home.
But it's my kite.
But wouldn't you like to pray that some poor little boy who doesn't have so many toys and blessings as you do will find your kite?
Yes, Grandpa.
As he was made to be a wise, almost religious-like figure whose words were never questioned. Often seen by his side was his wife, Mother Maria, though for as often as she's shown, she rarely has much to say.
Okay.
Yes, thank the Lord for such a good, sweet boy.
Yes.
Typically only chiming in when she's reiterating Grandpa's messages to the children. In And of the children, there was Davida, Techi, and Davidito, with the latter being one of the show's central figures, standing right next to or potentially even ahead of Grandpa in terms of screen time, as Davidito often got his own segments and told his own stories directly to the audience.
Hello, children. Would you like to hear some exciting prayer adventures? This first story happened when I was very small.
And though it's never outright stated, it's clear that Davidito was put on a pedestal, with the child often getting special treatment and being showered in gifts, as the family clearly seemed to favor him.
Thank you, Uncle Al.
It's called a kite.
We want to give you a little surprise because you were such a good witness.
This brand new tape recorder is for you.
Thank you, Jesus.
Okay. There never being an explanation as to why.
Thanks for the tape recorder.
This is the core group of Life with Grandpa, with the only other reoccurring characters being Aunt Sarah and Uncle Elf, a couple that was often...
Obviously, like, so far I'd say it seems pretty inoffensive. I mean, you know, while the puppet look a bit creepy, the messaging is pretty straightforward, you know, like be good, be kind, and stuff like that. So far it seems inoffensive, right?
Shown around the house helping look after the kids. And despite this looking like something pulled straight from the depths of the uncanny valley, the content within the show didn't really seem all that troublesome. Right. In fact, it appeared fairly normal, and not too unlike the many other low-budget religious shows of the time, highlighting themes like obedience.
Nothing short of right is right.
Yes, so the right thing is...
to obey.
Sharing.
Good morning, Davida. I have a surprise for you. Oh, can I see it? I would like to share my cars with you. Which ones do you like?
And loving everyone.
That's really sweet of you, David. Thank you for that nice, generous present.
What present?
That nice kiss. A kiss makes a real beautiful gift or present.
Though mixed within these fairly standard teachings, you'll find other moments that are far more unusual.
Really?
Don't run down that gravel hill. Davida!
Get hit by a car?
Oh, Davida.
Just fell down.
She's bleeding, and her cut is all covered with dirt.
And I don't even have a tissue to wipe it with. I'll just have to lick it clean and spit out the dirt.
What?
The show featured a lot of strange underlying themes that seemed...
That's a good way to infect the wound with, you know, all the bullshit in your mouth. Wow.
To have nothing to do with religion, or at least not the conventional beliefs of Christianity, with one of the more obvious being its unprompted disdain for doctors.
We'll have to really pray that there won't be a scar.
Soon afterwards, there was no sign at all of the deep gash on Davida's forehead. Surely a doctor would have stitched it, but our God is still a God of miracles. Praise the Lord.
As well as its constant endorsement of spanking.
I mean...
Jesus spanks us because he loves us and wants us to obey and be good.
You spanked someone. Jesus didn't spank anyone. He's dead.
We're really sorry. So if the Lord should spank you a little bit or correct you, it's for your own good. It's because he loves you and wants you to be good and obey.
And while these are certainly strange, by far the most glaring indication
that Life with Grandpa
wasn't just your typical kids show, came from the program's stance on women, with the first major example coming from a song made for the young girls watching on.
Oh boy.
So do the dishes and clean the floor, and God can show us something more. I'm ready for any job at all, whether it's great or whether it's small. I'm ready to go, ready to stay, ready my place to fill. Ready for service, lowly or great, ready to do God's will.
The message behind this song is clear. If you're a woman, then it's your job.
I mean, I know not everybody, you know, into Christianity or any religion is like, you know, extreme about it, or like, you know, a lot of people manage to be somewhat progressive, right? So, but at the same time, you're not really surprised that, you know, this kind of ideas would come, especially out of the 80s, out of some like super traditional, you know, value kind of show. Like, it's not that surprising in a sense. I don't know. Like, this is a bit messed up, but not surprising.
To cook, clean, and have babies. And that's about it, as this is God's will and your sole purpose for existing. And while this ideology was certainly not as controversial at the time, the show took it even further, as it hammered home this idea to all the children watching on by repeating one line at the end over and over again.
Trust and obey, for there's no other way. Trust and obey, for there's no trust and obey, for there's no other way.
Making it clear that this was a lesson that the showrunners didn't want these kids to question. But as comically offensive as this song is, it was far from the worst that the show had to offer.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
It's time for our lesser song.
Is a friendly scientist, a real good friend of ours.
In another episode, we're shown a musical number about Grandpa, who's portrayed as a scientist that's always busy working, though the song is really less about him and more about his love interest.
Oh boy. With a what? Or with a robot?
A robot.
I hate to say it, but the song sounds pretty good. It has that classic vibe.
With long hair and nude female breasts.
I didn't realize. Okay, I didn't realize at first. Okay. What the fuck? I literally did not realize. I mean, you know, you would think I would, but I didn't. I was looking at the bald head of the robot and I was like, yeah, that's a nice bald head. Yeah, that took a turn. That took a turn. I mean, yeah, I don't think Jesus said, love your robot, you know? I don't think Jesus said that. Oh, Mana, hello. It's been a while. How you doing?
The most surreal things that I've ever seen on a kid's show, as this thing was clearly meant to be a portrayal of Grandpa's wife and women in general, likening them to robots. Though unlike the previous demeaning song, this number is blatantly perverted, as it not only shows the robot having breasts, but it also shows Grandpa fondling them as well. And these perversions weren't even exclusive to its imagery.
Okay.
It's shocking for so many reasons, but
I guess maybe it's not that deep. It's just like the, you know, creator just got horny for one episode and it went very weird, but it is insanely weird. I don't know if this was like a TV broadcast or anything like that, but like, what?
Mainly due to the fact that this was on a show that was literally made for toddlers and young children, who are now being shown this clearly explicit content. And most disturbing of all is the realization that this sexualized material was actually nothing new to the world of Life with Grandpa.
Really?
Predating the
Puppets, thing was never cancelled before that,
book series called Life of Grandpa, with the show practically being a shot-for-shot remake of this book series, featuring the same exact characters and stories. And much like the show, the series was also a religious guide created for children.
I can't believe that the comic art style looks as uncanny as the actual puppets. Like, you had the chance to draw expression, but they still look like they're staring straight into your souls. Yeah. What an art style.
Children. In its pages, you'll find themes about morality and lessons made to guide you towards a proper way of living through this religion. But these books also had a very apparent dark side. One far worse than the show it inspired.
Real fathers.
In the chapter Real Fathers, we're shown a scene where Techi and Davidito question why they have two different skin colors, despite them being siblings, as Techi noticed that Davidito's skin appeared light brown, while hers was almost pure white, to which Grandpa then explains to them how his wife and their mother had slept with other men. See, God used Timothy and Carlos only to fuck Mama so that I could have you both. They were just like an instrument or tool that Jesus used to help create you wonderful little children for his kingdom. Praise the Lord. This was followed by an in-depth explanation of what that scene looked like, including images depicting the act.
Okay. Wait.
What that scene...
We have the love of God and we give it to you to make you happy. Do you understand? I'm sorry that I don't speak Spanish very well. What?
Looked like, including images.
A few minutes later, I love you because God loves you and Jesus loves you and my husband David loves you. Gracias, gracias, adios. Okay.
Is depicting the act.
What the fuck? Right, a penis is like a plow and a woman's womb is like a furrow, in which the man plans to seed a plow. What? Sorry.
Examples like this are prevalent all through.
Poor sister, they surely seem to appreciate me more now that I'm not there.
Throughout the pages of Life with Grandpa, with erotic material.
Why are you doing this for money? no Tom for you because I want to show you how much I really something.
Being shown constantly with no regard as to how inappropriate this is to be showing kids, which begs the obvious question: why? Why was life with Grandpa so blatantly perverted? Well,
okay, maybe I'm gonna go on a limb in advance and say maybe the guy's, you know, mental state isn't great, right? Like maybe it's someone a bit crazy, like you know, maybe it actually started with good intention, the show, but yeah, like the guy went a bit crazy and just started doing whatever.
The answer lies with the author of the books and the reason for the show's existence.
Who is
David
it?
Berg.
He shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect.
Other stuff in this video, I mean, he's got such a big channel, I'm sure people are like telling him about every messed up thing to look up, right? So it's probably, I assume, pretty easy to, you know, how many people telling him, look this up, right? So
when Jesus is going to come back, to rapture his saints, to gather them together.
Born in 1919, David grew up a devout believer in Christianity, but wanted something more from the religion. He dreamed of one day starting his own group with his own teachings. And in 1968, at the ripe age of 50, he decided it was time to do just that. The group began in Huntington Beach, California, and went by many names over the years, like Teens for Christ, the Children of God, the Family of Love.
Wait, Teens for Christ, and the guy was like 58 when he started it? He thought he was a teen?
The Family International, or just the Family. But regardless of its name, there was no denying what this group was. A cult. A cult led by David Berg. Berg would find young hippies and those struggling with drug addiction and mental health issues, and convince them to join his group by stating that the end of the world was coming soon, and that they needed to follow in his path and join his family to save their souls. It was pretty standard cult ideology, but at the time it was extremely effective, with the sect amassing a staggering 10,000 members at its peak. And at first, David got by with fairly standard teachings from the Bible, although this wouldn't last. After some time, Berg began addressing his followers via frequent illustrated messages called Mo letters that featured his ramblings and teachings from the time, with Berg slowly ingraining into his members that the contents of these letters should be taken as seriously, if not more so, than the Bible. In one of these letters sent out in 1972, Berg claimed that God was going to destroy the United States and that the group needed to flee the country immediately, with Berg demanding that his followers spread out all across the globe and open up communal homes where members could live as one, far away from the public eye. As a result, many members packed up their things and left right away, leading to roughly 130 communities being established across 70 different countries, essentially overnight.
That's crazy.
This mass migration had an extremely significant impact on the family, as it left practically the entire group outside of the United States, and more importantly, outside of the United States jurisdiction, meaning that Berg can now get away with far more than he used to. And unsurprisingly, this is where he began to tighten his control. The full-time members were made to give up all of their earthly possessions to the group and cease all contact with their family and friends who were non-believers, cutting them off from the outside world completely. And these restrictions also applied to the media they consumed.
This is very much like the, I forget the name, but the Kool-Aid cult. I forget the actual name, but I think the same thing happened, right? Like massive cult building in the US, and then at some point they went to another country, I forget where, and then there was the Kool-Aid incident where like they had poisoned Kool-Aid and everybody was made to drink it. In a mass suicide kind of thing.
I would limit how much I would watch the TV. Cause now I've got the answer. It's the slave, I'm the master. It no longer has a spell on me.
In his teachings, Berg denounced all forms of entertainment made outside of the cult, since he believed that this would poison the minds of his members and potentially sway them into leaving the group. And so, instead, he insisted that his followers only consume media that was produced directly by the family, with these works often being created by Berg himself or the other followers he enlisted, and then shipped directly to the members' homes, leading to hundreds if not thousands of videos, movies, and TV shows being produced and shared among the family. But for Berg, this wasn't just about providing entertainment. It was really all about controlling the minds of his group, and even more importantly, indoctrination, with his primary targets being children. From birth, most kids were not shown any media other than what the cult gave their parents, with these works quite literally shaping their minds into following everything that the cult believed in without question. The main themes of these were usually things like always be happy,
more than 70 little muscles form a round face,
but only 14 muscles put a smile in its place.
Like this seems innocent, but again, Then you have the songs like the one earlier, which repeats nonstop, like obey, 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 obey. Like that's the only thing you need to do. That's the only thing that matters. I mean, yeah, that's like this one seems innocent, but then some others are just like direct indoctrination. I mean, it's terrible.
All we show love. And never, under any circumstances, question your parents.
Always best to do it 'cause Daddy said so. Do it 'cause Daddy said so. Do it 'cause Daddy said so. Trust, obey, and do it 'cause Daddy said so.
Like you just want a robot, you don't want a kid at this point.
And Life with Grandpa was no exception, as it too was created by the family in order to instill their beliefs into its...
So then, that explains it. This Life with Grandpa thing wasn't on like normal TV. It was only for the cult, so that explains it.
Child viewers, with the line trust and obey being hammered home time and time again, as those creating the programs didn't want their kids questioning any of the practices, and so they were teaching them to simply smile along and trust the adults. But because the group was the one producing and distributing the content, they basically had no regulations placed on them, meaning that they could include whatever they want in these shows without any repercussions, leading to many of the showrunners exploring some of the group's more controversial beliefs, which becomes extremely troublesome when you realize that the family wasn't just your standard cult, and instead, it was a sex cult.
When you think of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, what are you thinking about? You think about a beautiful naked man and a beautiful naked woman. And what was the first thing that a beautiful naked man and a beautiful naked woman would, of course, naturally do as soon as they saw each other and nobody else around? I think just one look was all it took. And
David Berg was a deeply...
I mean, on paper, it's another thing that like you could say this seems fine if it's just like something adult, but I'm sure we know where this is going, right?
Man, the idea of sex consumed him and seeped its way into essentially all of his teachings.
I think Adam and Eve are over there in those bushes right now, busy making, not pina colada, I think they're making...
It really has like that just creepy uncle that no one likes, but you can't really get rid of vibe. Like constantly making a joke that makes the family gathering awkward. I mean, you can just tell this guy is off.
Some other kind of juices.
And once his followers were outside of the US, he began to preach something he called the law of love, which essentially said that the family should be showing all people love, and that love should come in the form of sex.
I practice what I preach, and I preach sex.
On paper,
girls, hallelujah.
And so he told his followers to open up their relationships to outsiders, calling the practice sharing, as you were made to share your partner in the hopes of enticing new people to join the group. But he wasn't satisfied with just this, and instead he began to mandate that the women of the group participate in something he called flirty fishing. Also known as FF, flirty fishing describes the practice of women going into bars.
Like on paper, again, like all of this is fine. Like if this is like, you know, a consenting adult that you know, they want to live this kind of like libertine lifestyle, whatever. But this is a cult, like all these people, like some of them are probably pressured by a partner to join, some of them are afraid of leaving, etc. So they are like basically being forced into all this. So it's automatically not fine, right?
At night in order to pick up lonely men, who they would then entertain for the night. The goal of this was to convince these men to join the family, though more realistically, the goal was also to make money, as they were made to charge for their services, with the women being told to seek lonely businessmen. And this is something that Berg not only pushed heavily, but outright mandated, insisting that every woman in the group do this or face being removed from the family, even those who were...
That's what I said, yeah, that's what I said. Like, the woman definitely forced to do this, some of them, right? Like, it's a cult. Of course, it can't just be nice.
Married. And Berg was so serious about this that he sent every colony report forms so that they could report how much flirty fishing was being done, in order to check their statistics and make sure that they were up to par. Understandably, many women of the group were concerned by this and wanted nothing to do with it. However, most of them had moved all the way across the world and sacrificed all of their belongings to be in this group, meaning that their removal would leave them with nothing. They were trapped. Simply put, Berg was forcing the women of the group into prostitution, and he was shameless about it too, calling them God's whores and Christ's hookers. The worst of all, Berg knew that flirty fishing could put these women in grave danger, as he admitted to them that violent assaults were going to happen, but he said that if you want to live, simply don't resist. And if you do get hurt or even killed, that's entirely your fault, as after all, it was God's will. And this was on top of a myriad of other horrific things that Berg said that I can't even repeat here. But the man saying all of these horrific things was the same man who wrote Life with Grandpa, and he used this medium to normalize his sex cult's beliefs for the children watching, which gives more context as to why women were portrayed in the way they were in these books.
Like, the worst thing about stuff like this is that you can say, you know, like, as humanity advances, this will happen less because, you know, I don't know, we're getting smarter, more educated and stuff like that. This is the 70s, 80s, 90s, where there was a lot of cult like that. Now with the age of the internet, it won't happen again, but it's not even true. Like, a couple of weeks ago, we watched a video about, like, a literal cult that started from a YouTuber, like, some US YouTuber, that started this cult of, you know, I am great, I am this, I am that. And some of his followers ended up doing, you know, killing people and doing fucked up stuff. And that was literally in the last couple of years, from literally, like, people on the internet, from people, like, finding someone on YouTube and becoming cult members. Actually, I remember 2 videos recently like that about this kind of stuff. So again, it's not even just like freaking like decades ago. Like, even with the internet and, you know, the idea that, you know, you should be more educated and not easy to fall into a fucking cult of all thing. Clearly, it's not the case. I guess cults are just never gonna go away. It's insane, and it's so sad that people fall for that. Like, I always feel very mixed about the idea of cults on the sense of, like, you know, the people that join them, basically. It's like, I want to feel empathy, understand that, you know, like, they're down on their luck, they're easily influenced, they've been indoctrinated all their life already with something, religion or something. They are, you know, they have mental trouble. I get it, but at the same time, I always also feel kind of like, yeah, like, man, like, this all seems so obviously bad, so if you stay in this, like, come on. I don't want to say, like, they deserve it, because that's fucked up. I know it's hard to leave a cult sometimes, we see they threaten you, etc, etc, etc. But I always feel very mixed about, yeah, like, I feel about people who join cult like that. It's like, I guess it's, you know, maybe I don't have enough empathy because I can't imagine myself joining a cult like that. Like, I wouldn't say I'm super smart, but also I can't imagine joining a cult. Yeah. Like, it seems so easy to tell when someone is just making a cult and trying to indoctrinate you. I don't know, but I guess everybody is different. Fair enough.
And the show, as Life with Grandpa was breaking down the young girls watching and grooming them for a life of prostitution that they were made to accept without question.
Trust and obey, for there's no other way. Trust and obey.
Though the show wasn't only for preparing the kids for the perverse lifestyles they were headed for, and instead, they were already becoming well accustomed to it.
Oh boy. I figured.
Throughout his Mo letters, Berg also began to preach that children should be involved in these affairs and sharing as well, stating that he believed age should have nothing to do with it. In fact, he believed that children should be taught about this lifestyle essentially as soon as they're born. And although, again, I can't read his exact words on this, Berg had declared open season on pedophilia, and much like flirty fishing, it was mandatory. The abuse that followed is unimaginable, at a scale far too large to fully know to this day. Abuse that the parents of the children not only allowed, but often participated in, with one of the more notorious large-scale accounts coming from something that the group called the Love Video. This movie was a result of Berg sending out requests to all of the parents.
Like, how does no one try to stop this? Like, I'm sure a lot of people that end up in this, the family, the relative, the friends might have reported to the cops or something. And I know they said they moved country, but fucking hell. You know, even today I feel like, yeah, there should be much harsher law against anything that even resembles a cult. Like, there should be much harsher law to, like, not even let it be able to form. And obviously I'm sure there's a debate between what's a cult, what's a religion, etc, but I don't know. Like, at this point we've watched so many videos about stuff like this, and it's like, yeah, every time it's the same. Like, it seems so obvious that this is a bad cult that's gonna end up doing some fucked up stuff, and yet it's always basically only, like, stopped or something when the fucked up stuff has already happened. even though everybody could see it coming.
To send him lewd videos of their children dancing, which he not only took for himself, but packaged together into a long-form compilation video that was then distributed to all of the cult's members, encouraging the others to film similar content, with Berg going as far as creating a guide to help create the perfect video. And not only did many parents go along with this, but many clearly enjoyed it.
Kita shared with us the video that just came from World Services, and it was so inspiring. It was so beautiful. The love video.
And for this couple specifically, this wasn't the only order that they were happily following.
And it was really a blessing too for Joe and Hobo, because they had a good chance to share.
How can your brain be so broken? I don't get it.
So the Lord's really setting us freer and freer to obey and to be free and to show that sample of freedom and love to the world.
Open with show from a VHS from the Philippines.
Life with Grandpa was literally created to indoctrinate kids into a pedophilic sex cult, and it makes you realize why exactly it and so many other of the cult's programs were hammering home this point of not questioning your parents or any adults, and to simply obey and smile.
So the right thing is...
At the same time, sure, yeah, in this context, but frankly, most cults do the same, right? Like, you're literally not supposed to question anything. I mean, you know, whoever is the leader or something, they literally want people to not question and to believe, and that's why it's the same, yeah. Yeah.
To obey.
Because the adults in their lives were now suddenly doing unimaginable things to them, and they were being groomed not to question it, making some of the show's segments horrendous in hindsight.
Yeah.
One very special way you can show the big people that you love them is by giving them lots of hugs, kisses, and cuddles. Oh. A child's love and affection really encourages and inspires the big people.
It was normalizing their abuse, and because of this, many children never questioned the horrible assaults that they endured. Assaults that were all fueled and pushed by David Berg's sick perversions.
Man, I really hope this fucking guy gets something in the end, like... Yes, hopefully we have a good ending of, he has a terrible lesson.
Created boys and girls able to have children by about the age of 12 years of age. My God, now he's gonna advocate child and sex. Yes.
Which were far from theoretical, as Berg himself allegedly partook in this practice repeatedly with his own children and stepchildren, as incest was also a key point of his teachings, and his adult followers rarely dared to question this, as those who refused to partake in Berg's latest teachings were again at risk of removal from the group, which is even more devastating for those who had children, as much like...
Isn't that a good thing? Red Kid also extended to his children, yeah. They just said that, yeah. I mean, I understand, like, they sold everything they have, they literally have nothing left but the cult. They probably burned all the relationship, lost all their money. But I don't know, like, there's a point of, like... I don't know. I'm just gonna say it, like, fuck the parents too. I don't know. Like, there's a level of, like, you're not a human being if you can't even understand that this situation is fucked up, and even if you have no money, nothing, you should try to go contact the authorities and do something about it. I don't know. Like, I want to have empathy for, like, the people falling into a cult like this, but fuck off. You're an adult. I mean, like, you're barely a human if you don't even have, like, the little bit of self-awareness to even try to do something about all this.
All of their possessions, their kids were pledged and belonged to the family. And the kids themselves couldn't seek help either, as those that refused to trust and obey were sent away to actual prison camps owned by the cult until they were basically reprogrammed.
That's insane.
They made camps. I was sent with my brother to the Philippines. We had armed guards from the Filipino military keeping us in. They would publicly beat you if you asked to leave, then try to break you and get you to confess.
Why is the military going along with it? Are they paid, maybe?
And the group continuously got away with this too, thanks in large part to Berg's orchestration of the group leaving the United States, which looking back was almost certainly done on purpose. Plus, many members were actually living in hiding. In fact, all of the members were made to change their names upon joining the group, and most were told to never give out their last names, meaning that if any child wanted to report the abuse that had happened to them, they would be unable to provide even the names of their abusers. And this included Berg too, who at this point lived most of his life in hiding, going by numerous aliases to avoid detection, aliases like King, Moses, Mo, Dad, and eventually Grandpa.
Alright. Alright. I'm always looking for a Nick Crowley video, but then when I watch them, I'm like, why do I even
entire show
watch
was
them?
about him, David Berg, which is why he was shown as a wise, unquestioned religious-like figure who the children were made to look up to.
Yeah,
and that wasn't all, as the characters shown alongside Berg were also members of his real-life family that lived with him in a remote commune. Mother Maria was the nickname of Karen Zerby, David's wife who helped him run the cult and facilitate this era of hypersexualization, while Aunt Sarah was based on Sarah Kelly, the woman in charge of running the prison camp made to punish the kids who dared question the family's beliefs.
Sarah Kelly, who was responsible for me being held against my will in the Philippines.
But the most grotesque detail to come from the revelation of who these characters are was that it showcased David Berg's polygamy, as he was actually married to many people in the real world, and two characters on the show itself, Mother Maria and Davida, his then 5-year-old stepdaughter. Davida would eventually go on to tell her story, stating that she had been Berg's child bride.
And there was a ceremony with the ring and everything, and once I turned 5 years old was when I was implicated into being one of his queens, so to speak.
Along with allegations that she had been victimized by him countless times. And she wasn't the only victim of Berg's perversions.
I'm sure, yeah.
Tetchy was often sexualized by Berg publicly, with Berg having stories made and illustrated depicting his fantasies about her when she was just a child. On top of this, numerous people within the group also claimed that she had been outright assaulted by the hands of Berg, as well as many others in the group.
Of course.
And look at our pretty girls today. You're dressed in such nice dresses and your hair looks so nice. Yes, you look so pretty for all the children that are watching today.
The context of who these characters are makes this already disturbing show that much more sickening.
Yeah.
But of all of the horrible stories to come from the real-life characters of Life with Grandpa, there's one that is far and away the most horrific. The story of Davidito.
Oh boy.
David is such a handsome boy, isn't he, girls? Would you like for David to share some more lessons?
Yes, Grandpa.
Are you all ready? Okay, David, you have the floor.
His real name was Ricky Rodriguez, and as a baby, he was taken in as
fucked
Berg's son,
picture when
following
you
Maria
think
conceiving
about
him
it.
with a man after a night of flirty fishing. And being David's first son, he was given the nickname Davidito. As for David Berg, he viewed this child as essentially a messiah. He began telling his followers that Davidito would one day save them from the apocalypse, causing Davidito to become a celebrity within the group, and worshipped as a religious figure when he was just a baby. Which explains why he was given so much airtime during Life with Grandpa, and why he was constantly being showered with gifts.
We want to give you a little surprise because you were such a good witness.
And for David and Karen, they wanted Davidito's life and childhood to be a guide for all members of the group, as they raised him in what they believed to be the perfect manner for a godly household. And so the couple and several other contributors documented the way he was raised, with daily journal entries that were published as weekly newsletters, and eventually turned into one massive book titled The Story of Davidito.
I'm sure it's all fucked up.
And the family truly believed that this over 700-page book was the ultimate guide for parenting and showed the only proper way to raise a child. Though what it actually showed was just how badly Davidito was being abused. Davidito was described laying next to his nude nannies, witnessing orgies involving his own mother, and being touched sexually by the adults around him, with these examples being presented through not only written stories, but actual photographs, with the adults involved having their faces removed and drawings placed over the top of them in order to hide their identities. The book was not only promoting acts with children.
And I feel like most of the people involved in this won't face repercussion. I mean, let's see where it goes, but I'd be surprised.
But it was outright showing it, and showing it happen to Davidito. And because of this, we have a daily journal entry of all the abuse that this child suffered, starting when he was an infant. Despite all the heinous acts that had been going on within the family, they had up until this point gone virtually unchecked by the public eye. But the story of Davidito would prove to be the first domino to fall, as the book leaked to the press.
Okay.
The cult Children of God, founded by Moses David Berg, he reportedly sanctioned sex among children.
This immediately became a news story all across the world, and it began shining a light on the family and its twisted beliefs. But despite all the constant news coverage, and the story of Davidito being tangible proof of the cult's horrible practices, there was still essentially nothing done to stop them. As very few arrests were ever made as a result, and even fewer resulted in convictions. So nothing was ever done to help Davidito. And so during his entire childhood and his early adult years, he stayed with the group, Though the older he got, the more he began to see the family for what they really were, and the constant pain that he was experiencing eventually made him want to just run away from it all.
Good.
And so, in 1999, that's exactly what he did, fleeing to the United States in the hopes of starting a new life.
1 year after I was born.
Though this was easier said than done, and no amount of distance was enough to keep him away from his tortured past. At one point during his time in the United States, Ricky actually opened up about the struggles he was experiencing on a website made for survivors of the family. And there, he documented just how bad things really were for him and several others behind the scenes, living with Berg, appropriately titling the post, Life with Grandpa. It was apparent that he was haunted by this life that he tried to escape, as the trauma was an everyday cycle of hell, and he just couldn't take it anymore.
And probably the fact too that, you know, it's like, I guess the cult was still going on, so like he escaped, but you know, a lot of the people involved have not faced justice and they're still around. I can't imagine like trying to, after that, you know, trying to live your life not scared of they're gonna find you and drag you back or something.
Do you know that sometimes the Lord likes to test our faith, to teach us patience, and to really make us pray? This is just what happened to me once.
Well, hey everyone. I want people to know that even though some of the things that I'm going to try to do are rather shocking and maybe not right in a lot of people's books, I want to explain some of the reasons behind it.
On January 7th, 2005, Ricky Rodriguez set up a video camera in his apartment and expressed his desire to kill his mother and other leaders of the group for all the dreadful things that...
Okay. For a second I was thinking, well, I guess... I was thinking of doing like a mass shooting or something. But I guess there's difference between like against random people and against the leader of the group, so... I mean... That sounds good to me.
They had done not only to him, but to all the other children, with his hope being that this would finally bring down the family once and for all.
My goal is to get those sick bucks, Mom and Peter, and, you know, then I can go to the next life knowing that, you know, that I made a difference.
With Ricky going as far as to show off the various ways that he planned on torturing them.
I'm gonna have to make do. I got my drill here. Got lots of fucking duct tape.
God knows, he hears, he cares.
Is it fucked up? I'm like,
he loves.
Yeah, that's what they deserve, like, I don't know. But at the same time, the bad thing about it is that, you know, you could say his life is already ruined, but if he does it, you know, even if he doesn't face justice, it's gonna be even more ruined. Because, you know, like, before he has to live with this thing that has been done to him, but after that he would have to live with the thing he's done, even though you could say it was right. That's what he deserved. Man.
His girls and boys. He gives his very best to those who let him choose the toys.
This is like a movie plot.
David Berg had been dead for years, though the family carried on with his mother, Karen Zerby, assuming full control, which explains why she was the primary target. And much like Berg, Karen spent most
Okay, I mean, this footage is recent, right? That means this bitch is still around.
of her life in hiding, with Ricky being unable to track her down, though he was able to find Angela Smith, one of the nannies responsible for raising him, as well as one of his most prominent abusers, as she was even shown in the story of Davidito assaulting him. At this point, Ricky was exhausted, and Angela was his last shot at getting intel to help him find his mother and finally carry through on his plans. And so, he invited her over for dinner, under the guise of rejoining the group.
I went home that night and tried to wait patiently for the next day.
Like, you shouldn't condone murder in any circumstances or whatever, but at the same time...
To teach me. This is what happened.
Yeah. Okay.
Before Ricky could even get the information he was looking for, something in him snapped, and midway through their conversation, Ricky grabbed a knife and stabbed Karen in the arm, and then slit her throat. He fled the area that night, driving for hours until he reached California, the place that years before David Berg had started the family. There, he called his ex-wife, professing to everything he did, saying that he did it mainly for his sister Techi, but he felt no better. In fact, he felt worse. And even looking back at the video, it's very obvious that this was something that Ricky didn't truly want to do, and instead he felt like he had to do it, to avenge everyone that the family had hurt.
I'm not trained.
Obviously, I can relate to an extent. You know, I don't talk about it often because fucked up, but my dad was, well, this way still alive. One of the, you know, big piece of shit that you can imagine in many different ways without going into details. And yeah, when I was young and, you know, even after I had left and was living with my mom, for years, I always felt that feeling of, you know, if I ever see him, I need to kill him. Like, you know, like all this hatred and, you know, a lot of it is still there today. But yeah, like for years, I often thought about it, like how, you know, it would solve everything. But then some other day I would think about it and, you know, on the other hand, it was just because I needed revenge or, you know, it was a lot of like fucked up feelings. In the end, obviously, I'm glad I never did it because again, I would have ruined my life as well. Or like he would have succeeded in ruining my life in a sense. You know, all the abuse leading to actually killing someone would have been basically, you know, like, yeah, that would have not been good. So again, I can relate to him. But obviously, yeah, the point is, if you think about it and if you manage to overwrite your brain, the fact that, yeah, like, if you kill someone, you're ruining your own life. Both in the eye of the law and maybe of yourself to an extent. And so it's not worth it. Yeah.
I don't know how to fucking do this.
But it's easier said than done.
God damn it.
It's easier said than done.
And it was too late to take back what he did. And so he stopped the car in a dark parking lot, sat there for a moment thinking about everything that had happened during his painful life.
Did he kill himself?
And ended his suffering once and for all.
Fuck.
I mean, in a way, that's what these fuckers have done to us. They didn't actually, you know, grab a knife and cut us up, but man, they sure fucked up our brains. That's the way it was at Grandpa and Mama's house. Literally or figuratively, they're going down. So, with that happening.
And I assume they probably don't again, like, there's a little footage, so I'm assuming most of them got away with it.
You thought, I shall leave you.
Poor guy. Seriously.
Ricky Rodriguez's death was devastating for the community of survivors of the family, and it caused shockwaves all throughout the family itself, as his final video was plastered all over the news. And though it didn't happen in the way he expected it or wanted it to, Ricky's life and death undoubtedly contributed to the decline of the family, and helped diminish the cycle of abuse within the group. Starting from the story of Davidito, the public pressure forced Berg to outlaw the widespread abuse that he once preached. And though it is believed that it never really came to an end, it was at the very least significantly reduced. And by the time the news began to cover Ricky's death, it proved to be the final wake-up call for many still within the group, as they finally began to see through the facade that had once controlled their lives.
I don't know if that's a good way to put it. I don't know. I mean, again, maybe fuck, I have no empathy, but it's more that they realize that, yeah, now they might be in trouble. There's more eyes on this than ever, so it's time to try to go into the darkness.
Like Grandpa says, prayer is powerful. When we pray, things will happen and things will be different.
It's difficult to watch any of Life with Grandpa, knowing its history, its purpose, and the real people that it was inspired by. Though as soon as the media began taking notice of the cult, many members were made to purge the media that was sent to them that may be considered incriminating. And as a result, it appears that most of Life with Grandpa is missing to this day, and potentially destroyed forever. Currently, only 4 episodes have been recovered, and it's not even known how many more were released, or even what year the show started or ended. But considering how closely the show mirrored the book, it's possible that these potentially missing and destroyed episodes are much worse than the ones we have today. But despite not knowing the full extent of the show, it's clear that Life with Grandpa and the countless other programs that the family made did exactly what they wanted them to. They brainwashed an entire generation of the cult's children.
I wish that's what it was.
The effects were devastating.
I wish that's what it was.
But they become extremely agitated when we ask them about Moses David Berg's teachings on sex.
My Little Fish. Now, your father described that as a routine publication.
They're not having sex, they're just kissing and hugging in bed. That's not sex. If you show it to other people, they don't understand. That stuff's not supposed to be publicized. So many people think sex is wrong. So many people hate us. But we just telling them the truth. We're just telling them it's not wrong. We're just telling them that there's nothing wrong with it. And here come these publicizers doing them to everybody.
That kind of reaction, I mean, like, she's fucked up, right? Indoctrinated to the max. And at the same time, you can tell she knows like she's trying to just say what she's been told to say, but she starts crying because she probably knows it's fucked. That's
Between
sad.
the strange content from the program itself, its obvious attempts at indoctrinating kids into a cult that was only ever going to harm them, the real-life people behind the characters, and the fact that this propaganda was so effective, I have no doubt that Life with Grandpa is the darkest children's show that I've ever come across.
Oh, we should do GB.
Though shockingly, there's somehow
is
one
it
more
anyone
layer
you
to
know?
the story that makes this program even more disturbing.
Oh boy. What is it? What can be worse than this?
And now, here's the exciting ending to this story.
One thing that we haven't discussed yet is who was actually the one behind the creation of the show. There's no doubt that it's David Berg's stories and was probably done at his request, but who was the one actually making it? Well, unfortunately, most of the people who worked on the show have their identities hidden by only using their first names, or even using straight-up aliases, so I could hardly find any information on any of them, with the exception of one. Peter Puppet.
Peter
Puppet was sort of a celebrity within the group, being responsible for numerous puppet shows, including one called The Lovettes, which was actually far more popular than Life with Grandpa, and was even supposedly broadcast on TV in the Philippines, with the show being a disturbing rabbit hole in its own right.
Philippines, what the
Would you
fuck?
like to hear a story? Well then, let's go see Grandpa in the garden. Hello, children. So nice of you to visit us in the garden today.
But Peter Puppet owned this group and was in charge of the Lovettes team, and coincidentally, the Lovettes just so happened to be credited as the producers of Life with Grandpa. So Peter Puppet was, at the very least, one of the contributing creators of the show. And he also seems to be the one in charge of performing the actual musical numbers on the show, as they featured puppets that belonged to Peter and the Lovettes team, with these segments interestingly being credited to an unknown man named Peter Pioneer.
We have a beautiful song from Peter Pioneer.
It's not a concrete link, but it's clear that Peter Puppet had a role in the show's creation, and helped push the family's disturbed ideology onto hundreds of kids across the globe. But during the
I mean, the fact that this has to be a YouTube video and that Nick Crowley is the one that has to do this digging to even try to find info like this, that it wasn't like some criminal case or, you know, professional trying to find and analyze those kind of people, like, come on.
The creation of Life with Grandpa, it seems his own beliefs were being tested. In the beginning of the video, we saw an example of the family's view on doctors.
Surely a doctor would have stitched it, but our God is still a God of miracles. Praise the Lord.
This sentiment was really common in the family, as Berg outright forbade any medicine or surgeries of any kind, instead preaching that miracles from God were the only way to heal. And because of this, many members of the family with chronic ailments or fatal illnesses were basically left to die. And one of
I don't get it again, like, how can you indoctrinate people like that? Like, this seems like the simplest thing. Like, if you believe in his teaching, but then he tells you that, yeah, miracle from God will save you, but then, you know, you just cut yourself and it's not fucking healing, it's getting infected, clearly he lied. Like, it should be enough to be like, yeah, this cult is bullshit, no? Like, it seems so fucking simple to just be like, yeah, no, this is obviously bullshit. I don't know.
those left suffering was Peter Puppet. His life is almost entirely a mystery, as he lived in hiding in one of the family's compounds, but according to some of the group's members, one day he noticed something in his neck, a small lump, and over the next few weeks and months it began to slowly get bigger and bigger, to the point that Peter had to go visit a doctor in order to see what was wrong. And it was there he learned that inside of him was an aggressive tumor that was only going to get larger.
But the miracle will save you, I mean, don't worry.
The good news was the tumor was actually operable and could be removed with little risk to his life, but the bad news was surgeries were against the family's beliefs, and so he turned it down, instead opting to go back to the compound to pray the tumor away with the other members. This, however, never happened. Instead, the mass began to grow at an even faster rate, to the point that those around him could notice it, eventually leading to Peter hiding away in his room, away from the others, not wanting to be seen. However, at some point during his struggle, a photograph was taken, showing the entire compound he was living with. And in the background, we see...
Oh! Okay, I mean... Is it healing? Like, dude.
Peter, whose neck is impossibly large. From here, it's said that Peter began to beg the family to take him to get the surgery, as the tumor was quite literally suffocating him slowly, turning him against the very beliefs that he once forced upon so many children over the years. But the family forbade it, insisting that he wait for a miracle that was never going to come. With nowhere else to turn, Peter Puppet supposedly ended his own life shortly after this photograph was taken, adding the final pillar of context to Life with Grandpa, a program that can only be described as the darkest children's show ever created.
I guess so.
Gotta go
I guess
now.
so.
Let's wave bye-bye, kids. God bless you. Come on, say bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Tumor in French was tumor and die. Yeah. Tu is like youth and mer is die. Oh. David Berg died of natural causes in 1994 at the age of 75. He was never convicted of a single crime. Justice, let's go. As useful as ever. Karen Zerby continued her husband's legacy by leading the family to this day. How? How is this still a thing? Hopefully this video will do something, like, yeah, because as always, you know, the authority being fucking useless, maybe this video will get enough people to care to do something about it. Not been publicly photographed since 2010. Sarah Kelly left the family and went into hiding. She was last seen living in Costa Rica in 2018 working with seeds of hope. Charity specializing in helping vulnerable women and children. Upon learning of her true identity, Seed of Hope severed ties with her, and she has never been seen again. That's sad. That she would let us speak out against what her brother did, claiming that no abuse ever took place and that Ricky was simply disturbed. She remains with the family to this day. Due to the statute of limitation, the many victims of the family will likely never receive the justice they deserve. Again, justice with a limitation, right? That's justice, yeah, I mean, it's been 20 years, so who cares what happened to you? I mean, yeah, justice has only 20-year limit. The family continues its operation with strict rules against the abuse of children. However, they have never disavowed David Berg's teachings. Okay, I mean, it's not the first time I said that, but I almost regret watching this video because it makes me just so irrationally angry. Like, at the very least, if there's justice at the end of a video like this, you can say, you know, at least they got what they deserve, but no, they did not get what they deserve. I mean, most of them literally, like, nothing happened to them. That's so fucked. Yeah. I guess I can say it wasn't clickbait. This was definitely the darkest TV show ever made. It's more about the context behind it, you know, some of the stuff on it were weird, but man, I'm so angry, like, man, what a fucked up situation. So fucked up. It's, yeah, I don't think I can say much more. I mean, yeah, hopefully this video will do something and people will know about it and maybe there'll be enough public attention. And if it actually happens, yeah, it'll be a great demonstration of the absolute, like, trash that, you know, in most countries, like, the justice system is, you know, they'd rather spend so much time, money, effort, like, begging people for stupid stuff like drugs and all that, and then they let something like this just go on. And if anything happens, it's gonna be because a fucking YouTuber of all things made people care about it. Like, that would be perfect. That would be perfect.